Remember, there's some pretty important information here in the disclaimer. You might want to give the video a quick pause and read it.
Hello everybody, this is Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with a commission for Ian. It is Young Link, specifically the Ocarina of Time version. So yes, let's get into this. It has been a long time since I have done a Legend of Zelda figure. So the base toy is Bobby from Dungeons & Dragons. This kid kind of looks like a 10-year-old boy cosplaying He-Man, doesn't he? I mean, he has the fur loincloth, the thing he's wearing is like the armor that He-Man has, so he's not going completely bare-chested. And if it wasn't for the Viking helmet that's kind of not fitting him perfectly, he would just totally look like a little kid dressed as He-Man. But this probably is the perfect base toy to use for Link in terms of the way it looks. I mean, it's a figure of a child, so it has a cherubic face, so I'm not gonna have to worry about, having two sharply developed cheekbones. And the physique is perfect, and it's relatively short. It's 4¼ inches tall, so if you put it next to a 5 or 6 inch action figure, it'll look, respectably short next to the adult characters. Only problem is that there is a flaw in the way it's constructed. I did bring this up when I was doing the unboxing. The joints on this figure are very stiff, and people reported that it's relatively easy to break because the pin discs are too tight and too long. But if you're careful enough, this figure can totally work. It's a good looking figure, and we can do this. And it dismantles. Pretty much everything important comes apart except for the shoulders. I couldn't get those out. So, had to work around that. And, I guess the first part was, getting the armor off, which I didn't keep off for very long because I ended up putting it back on. Cause this way I could work around and sculpt in all the gaps and holes and turn his armor into the tunic shirt. So yeah, basically just fill it with sculpt, make a collar, and to give the arms, garmentry without limiting the shoulders movements, I used electrical tape to make the sleeves. Yeah, you see that in a minute. And then of course the paint job. To make his belt, that is another piece of electrical tape, red electrical tape this time. I know in the concept art, Link's belt looks like it's brown, but if you actually look at the games and some of the existing action figures, his belt is usually depicted as red. So just to differentiate and break up the color scheme a bit, I did respect the red belt, although the strap that holds the scabbard on his back, which is made out of craft foam, is still brown. The buckles are also made out of craft foam, which is one of those times when I cut the craft foam, through the middle, to take a piece of craft foam and make it half the thickness that it originally is. Not the easiest thing to do, because it's such a small thing, And then for his skirts, I cut away the loincloth bits. This actually does the benefit of giving me a little bit more range in his hips, because despite being made out of a slightly softer plastic, the fur loincloth was still too stiff and it prevented his legs from moving very much. But with a little bit more electrical tape used to make his skirts, I can't believe I didn't realize until, when I made that, Fang the Bat. Until I made him, I didn't realize how useful electrical tape could be to make action figure clothes. And as long as you spray the sealants on it, it looks like it works pretty good with the paint. Cause, after painting it and sealing it, I've moved the figure around, I've touched it, I've manhandled it a little bit, and, the paint never rubbed off. Yeah, you could totally paint this electrical tape. Still, I made sure to use green electrical tape so that just in case the paint does scratch, you're just revealing green underneath green paint. So it's better than nothing. So with that, the torso will be done. So you work on the head. I was able to remove the helmet and hair that the figure comes with, and sculpted on ears, and then his hair and the iconic stocking cap that Link always wears. Since this is the Ocarina of Time version specifically, he has that iconic little bangs which are parted down the middle. And then you don't really see his hair from behind because I'm assuming it's all contained within the hat. I wonder if he took his hat off, just how long would Ocarina of Time Link's hair be? Like, because I remember he grew up with the Kokiri, the eternal childlike dryad people of the Kokiri forest, and I imagine that they don't really play with sharp objects like scissors very often, so they probably all have long hair. I'm guessing that he had pretty long hair because he never had a proper haircut. That is my headcanon! So with the paint job, fortunately, the Bobby already had blue eyes, so I was able to leave the eyes untouched, but I painted his eyebrows yellow to match his hair. I also didn't do anything to remove the freckles. I was afraid that, given the type of plastic that this is made out of, if I tried to wash it off with acetone, I might damage the cheeks. But, why not give Link a little bit of freckles? That's just fine. It works. The boots, I simply chose to repaint them. I made the lighter leather color on the top part, because the folded over part. And, for the arms, he has these little bracelets on. And, I couldn't really remove these without really compromising the way the arms looked. So I opted to just give him Goron bracelets. I know in the video game there's only one Goron bracelet, but, I figured, it would be better to just have two Goron bracelets and be symmetrical than try to cut these off and then make it look like his wrists are all deformed and manhandled, So I feel it just looks better this way. So with all the parts customized, we actually do have Link's figure ready. But, Link isn't just Link without his accessories. Link is one of the most famous video game characters for always carrying around a whole bunch of equipment and stuff. So he needs his equipment. So just like how you couldn't enter the first dungeon until you equipped your sword and shield, we gotta get a sword and shield for this. So, the base for the shield is this spear. It came with that Captain Kirk figure that I used to make a custom a long time ago. And I used the little spearhead thing that it has as the base to attach this. This is the Deku shield. It is just a piece of epoxy that I shaped in the, outline of the shield. And then I scratched it with a sculpting tool to make it look like rough bark. With a proper paint job, it's a solid shield with the Deku emblem. Looks like it's made out of wood. I'm actually really impressed with myself just how much this looks like wood. But the shield needs to be held, so I put the shield on the thing, and then I used epoxy to stick the little spearhead to the shield at just the right angle that it would hang over his arm. So he's holding in his hand, but without need for a wrist strap, it looks like it has a wrist strap on it. From the back, this is what it looks like once it was all done and painted and everything. I cut short the handle of the spear so that it would just fit in his hand, and then I used the other half of the spear to make the hilt of the Kokiri blade. The scabbard of the sword is just hand sculpted. It is not a functioning scabbard. It's not hollow. You cannot put the sword inside of it. Ian was said that he would be okay if the scabbard was merely decorative as long as it was, on the figure, which it will be. And the hilt of the sword is, just hand sculpted with epoxy. Once everything dried, I used a piece of plastic that I cut in the shape of the blade and stuck it into the hilt, and then sculpted the sword on top of that. It would be too thin if it was just a sheet of plastic by itself, so a little bit of extra sculpting to give it some depth, and you got yourself a little sword. All it needed was a paint job, which you will see in a minute. So here is Link. At first it may look a little bit different. It may not look different enough, but if you look under his right arm, well, his right, camera left, you could see the hilt of the edge of the scabbard is back there. From the back, you can see the scabbard is actually stuck onto his back nice and properly. And he can wield his accessories quite effectively. So you can put that Deku shield in his hand. He can wield the Kokiri blade. It's a little bit awkward putting the sword in his left hand because the left hand of this figure was really not sculpted to hold things. It was really the right hand that was meant to be the holding thing hand. Which, right-handed bias, bleh. But he looks pretty darn good if you stand him next to an adult Link figure. Here's the Breath of the Wild figure because I wanted to use the most recent release. Also, it's the only Link figure that I have on hand that isn't in storage somewhere. I guess I do have my Twilight Princess Figma or Figuart. I forget if it was Figuart or Figma that made the Twilight Princess Link. But I do have that one, but it's in storage. It's in my closet. I didn't want to reach in there, so, that's that. Since that's a 6-inch scaled figure, it'll probably look a little bit better, but even next to the 5-inch figure, he still looks pretty good. So, yes, that is my young Link figure. I know it's really great to be making a Legend of Zelda figure again. I love Legend of Zelda so much, but I rarely get to express myself in this medium. So thank you all for watching, and let's let Sonic take us out as always.
Oh, hey everybody, it's me, Sonic the Hedgehog. Just here to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. And for even more amazing customs, don't forget to subscribe to Wake Angel 2001, because between you and me, they're way past cool.